Hey Strong Tower family, this is me and Christina, and we are going to do a wobble disc video for you today. We're not going to do all the reps of everything, so this is just a guided video for you, but enjoy.
So also just to preface here, a lot of these exercises you're going to be very familiar with. You probably have done them on just your mat without any props. You've probably done them with a lot of props as well. I believe this is the first time that we're doing a wobble disc video. It's kind of been asked for. So the wobble disc has a lot of benefits in that it adds stability, or requires and challenges stability and balance. So we're going to do everything from seated to lying down to prone or on your belly, on your side, and we'll finish up with some standing balances as well. So grab your wobble disc if you have one at home. Buy one here. We do provide them here at the studio, and we'll get started. So Arya and I are going to start with a wobble disc position right behind us at the low back, kind of around the sacrum area, with the legs extended slightly. Knees will be a little bit bent and feet are planted. The arms are going to reach out over the knees, so we're starting with a really straight, erect spine sitting on top of the sit bones. And then we're going to draw the belly to the navel, or the belly to the spine, and roll back onto the disc. Your spine, your upper back and low back will arch as you reach the arms overhead. And then tip the chin, bring your arms forward, use your belly muscles to roll all the way up, and then roll back to a straight spine. And again, rolling back down, nice and easy, finding the center of that disc, the center of your spine. Reach as far overhead as you feel comfortable with. And then start to pick your arms up, engage the belly muscles to roll back all the way to a seat, making sure that your shoulders stay dropped down from your ears the whole time. And we'll do 2 more. We're going to aim for about 4 repetitions in each exercise, just for the sake of time. So you can either do these 4 exercises and create this video, or treat this video as a class in and of itself, or just take it as a guide. And if you want a little bit longer of a workout, then add a few more repetitions, maybe aiming for your 8 to 10 total. Good. Now, our second exercise, we're going to roll back until we feel the mid-back, maybe the bottom of the rib cage or the bottom of the shoulder blades. Hands are going to come behind the head, and we're going to do little baby crunches. So rolling slightly back and up. Doesn't have to be a whole lot of movement. Try to keep your elbows really nice and wide, and press the belly and the low back to the disc. Good. Now, as we do this, we're going to lift the right knee, almost like you're marching out the legs, and the left. So every time you crunch up, you're adding a knee lift and pull to the belly. 1 more each side. Good. Now we're going to do that same knee lift, but add a twist. So rotating the left elbow to the right knee and release. Left elbow to the right knee and release. So here, my favorite, oblique twists. One more. Good. Now we're going to roll all the way over the disc. Extend the arms and allow the belly muscles to stretch out. Feel free to extend your legs all the way out onto your mat, nice and long. Take a couple deep breaths in and deep breaths out. And then bend your knees again, planting your feet. Reach your arms to the sky, tip your chin forward, roll yourself all the way up to a seat, and beautiful. All right. So moving on, we're going to switch the position of the disc, or bring it to a different part of our body. So bring it slightly under your legs just to start with, and we're going to roll back, and then this disc is going to come under the sacrum. So I'm going to lift the hips, slide it under the sacrum, and then land the hips back down, And then the feet are gonna be about sit bone or hip distance apart. Arms reach down by your side, tuck the tailbone, scoop the belly muscles as you try to lift the buns, the hips, and the spine off of the disc, and then roll down bone by bone until the hips land, and just making sure that you're truly releasing the tailbone at the bottom. And again, curling up on the inhale, pressing through the heels to engage the glutes and the hamstrings, and then belly pulls in, ab muscles engaged at the front of the body. Release the tailbone at the bottom. We got 2 more. Exhale, lower. And final one. Good. So moving on to our second exercise here with the disc under us. Adjust the disc if you need to, if you feel like it shifted at all. Extend the left leg up to the sky, pointed toes. Remember your goal, because it's a wobble disc and it wobbles, your goal is to stabilize the disc under your hips. With your toes pointed, extend the leg as you lower it down, flex the foot at the bottom and kick the leg up. And point to lower, flex to lift. Point to lower, flex to lift. Last one, point to lower, flex to lift. Keep the foot flexed, down, point to lift, and flex and lower, point to lift. Nothing happens to your hips, nothing happens to the low back. Last one, flex to lower, point to lift, and bend the left knee, set the foot down, shifting to the right side. Belly muscles, pubic bone muscles, pelvic floor muscles pulled in, and right leg up, lowering down with a pointed toe, and flex to lift. Inhale, exhale. 2 more. Last one, at the top, keep the foot flexed. And lower down, point, and lift. And down, point, and lift. Last one, point, and lift, and bend the knee, and set the foot down. So moving into a little bit more of our abs series. We're not gonna do the full abs series of 5, but the majority. Starting with our single leg reach, the knees are gonna pull into the belly. Notice though that I'm not pulling the knees in enough to round the spine or lift the hips off of the disc. So I still wanna maintain my hips neutral, even though they're slightly elevated off of the floor. Head is gonna stay down, arms down by the side. Separate your legs a little bit so you have space to move them, and extend the right leg out, and then switch back and forth. So this one you're gonna wanna move really slow and controlled, because you're gonna feel as the weight gets distributed from leg to leg, the weight of your hips is gonna change as well. Your goal is to maintain your hips nice and level, nice and even, resisting that disc wobbling, which if you're looking at me, you can tell is actually really hard. Left leg out, and then pull both knees in. Now we're gonna connect the legs together and extend both legs out and in for our double leg reach. So both legs reach out, both knees draw in, and out, and in. If you feel your hips moving or shifting forward, kick a little higher, maybe kicking even up to the sky. Your goal is to keep the belly muscles pulled into the body as the legs reach out, and then use the pelvic floor to pull the knees in. Last one, and then knees all the way in. Extend now the legs up to the sky, point to toes for scissor kicks. So straight legs will alternate back and forth as they pass each other. And one more, right leg and left. Bring both legs back up to the sky, flex the feet, and turn into a Pilates, feet pressing out through the heels. Double leg lowers, doesn't have to be much of a lower. Lower the legs down, hinge the legs back up, and down, and up. Use those belly muscles, down, and up. Last one, down, and up. Bend your knees, plant your feet. We're gonna go one more time into a bridge lift or a coccyx curl to stretch out the front of the hip flexors and the quads. So roll the hips up and off of the disc. Stay here for just a moment. Allow the front of the body, front of your hips again, to open and stretch. And then as you exhale, roll back down. Good. So you can lift your hips up slightly, and you're gonna take the wobbly disc out, and then roll the hips back down. Draw your knees into your belly, and roll up and down until you come to a seated position. All right, so moving on. Disc is gonna come out in front of your mat. We're gonna roll onto the belly and the chest. When you roll down, you want the disc to be right under the low ribs. So we're gonna start out like we normally do in swan. Forearms down, elbows hugged in tightly to the body, kind of right under the shoulders, maybe slightly pulled back to encourage the shoulders down. And then you're gonna round your forehead towards the mat. It doesn't have to touch, but you're rounding slightly on your upper back. And then using your back muscles, I want you to start to lift the head, lift the chest, feel like you're pressing away from the disc, maybe even pressing slightly into your hands to lift the elbows if you have space in your low back, and then lowering back down. Now, if after that first one you felt like you needed to adjust, you can either slide forward or back onto your disc. We'll do a couple more just like that. So inhale, lifting up, and exhale to release. Making sure you're releasing all the way down into that slight forward fold. And again, lifting up strong, inhale, shoulders and shoulder blades down, and exhale. Now to make this a little more challenging, your hands are gonna come behind your head, elbows are lifted off of the mat, using your pubic bones to press down into the mat. You're gonna lift your head and chest up, maybe getting a little bit higher, and then coming back down, forehead to the mat. And again, pressing up as you inhale, and exhale. We'll come up for two more. And on the second one, we're gonna stay lifted. So rise into your swan lift. Use those back muscles to stay lifted. Open the arms out to the sides like airplane wings, and then flip your palms and squeeze back to your hips. Squeeze into your body. Flip the palms forward and reach and extend out, kind of like Superman towards the wall in front. Flip the palms, squeeze back so you can get a little higher of a lift off the chest. And again, reach forward. And exhale, lift. And two more, forward. Press energy into the tops of your feet, into your thighs. Last one, forward and back. And then just sweep your hands down. Allow the chest and the forehead to round. And then you're gonna press back into a child's pose. Take a couple of deep breaths here. And then press back up to your hands and your knees. So the disc doesn't really have to go too far. We're just gonna roll over onto our right sides. The disc is gonna be under the rib cage. Elbow or forearm can come down, or you can even hold your head in your hand, whatever feels most comfortable. So we've been here before. We've done single side leg exercises. So extending your legs out, connecting your feet, and squeezing the inner thighs. What this does on the wobble disc is it kind of takes away from the tension of your obliques, so that way more of the work is done in your outer hips and your outer glutes. So just a few exercises is going to be enough. You're going to lift the top leg straight up and down. If you want to challenge your balance, take your left hand from the floor, place it to your hip, and then try not to move the disc under you. Feel the squeeze of the outside of the leg, making sure that nothing happens to the left hip. Keep the belly drawn in, and then last one, up and down. Lift the top leg so it's in line with your hip, and you're gonna swing the leg forward with a kick, kick, and swing back and kick, kick, and forward, kick, kick, and back, kick, kick. So noticing that on the wobble disc creates a little bit more of a challenge to stay balanced and to not move the torso. And last one forward, and last one back, and resting the leg back down. So this time we're going to do circles of the leg, keeping the leg elevated, pointed toes. We're going to circle the leg forward for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and reverse 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and the last one. Now, so you can see it from behind, kind of a back view of the same exercise. Arya and I are gonna flip over and do the same thing on the right leg. So leg lift up and down. Last one. In line with the hip, and then swing forward and back. Last one. And then keep it lifted and over the other foot and circle. Reverse. And then just come up. All right, so moving on, we're going to turn to face the disc. We're going to keep the disc forward, and we're going to roll back onto our backs one more time, and the feet are going to come onto the disc. So like before, when we did the bridge lift with the disc under the sacrum, this time we're going to do a bridge lift with the disc under the feet. So this really, really emphasizes the work on the hamstrings and the glutes. So make sure that you're pulled far enough to your heels and that your feet are still about sit bone distance. Arms pressed down by your side, shoulders peeled back. Same thing as before, tuck the tailbone, scoop the low abs, press into the disc as you roll the hips up, and then roll down bone by bone. This is probably the exercise where you're going to feel the disc move the most. It is quite challenging to elevate your feet off of the floor, and then much more so to have that surface be unsteady and unstable. So challenging the stability of your hips, your knees even more. And we'll do one more. Full roll up on the inhale and full roll back down, making sure that you release the tailbone all the way at the bottom. Now from here, we're gonna go into a single leg bridge lift or a single leg coccyx curl. You might have to slightly walk the right foot in, not too much, and then the left ankle will cross on top of the right knee. Arms still down by your side. Do your best, you might not get as high, but tuck the tailbone, roll the hips up, pressing through just the right leg and rolling back down. This one is really going to test that wobbliness of not just the disc, but the hips. Good. We're only gonna do 2 on that side. And then left foot comes down to the disc. Right ankle crosses on top of the left knee. And again, scoop first. Make sure you do that tuck of the tailbone first. Press up and lower back down. If your hamstrings start to cramp in this one, just skip it. It is a whole lot for the hamstring muscle. Or maybe just limit how high you come up. Good. Now before we move on, let's just take a minute to stretch. So pull the right knee into the belly. The left foot can come off to the side so it's flat onto the mat. And then reach behind the right knee and straighten the leg up. Continue to pull that leg in towards you. If you have the space to walk your hands to your calf or maybe your ankle, you can reach a little bit higher on the leg and stretch open the hamstring. If you needed a modification for this, you can always use a strap or a towel, drape it over the foot, and pull on the 2 ends. And then switch legs. Right foot comes down, left knee pulls in. Reach behind the left leg, straighten the knee, and then potentially walking your hands up. Continuing to draw the leg a little bit deeper towards the body. And then release. And then you're gonna roll up to a seat. And Ari and I are gonna come to standing. We're gonna take our discs with us. I do want you to find either a chair or a wall to balance and to have some support. So you want the disc to be about a foot or 2 away from the edge of the wall, so you've got some distance with your hands. Yeah, you can do that. So right hand can come to the wall first, meaning that the right foot is gonna step to the very center. If you're too far to one edge, it's gonna be pretty impossible to find center and find balance. So step right into the very center of the disc, press into the disc to straighten the right leg, and then you're gonna pull the belly in. Pull the belly in and do your best to lift the left toes, flexing the left foot. And from here, you're gonna do the same thing that you did when you were lying on your side, kicking your leg open and close. Inhaling and exhaling. Noticing that the crown of the head is reaching up, the spine is straight, we're not reaching forward, we're not arching the low back and puffing out the chest. So everything is pulled in, tailbone is rooted down towards the heel. And do one more, open and close. Now, left knee is gonna draw up, you're gonna flex at the hip and the knee to pull up, and then kick straight out in front of you. Yep, so inhale and press. Really, breath doesn't, not to say it doesn't matter so much, but if you prefer to inhale or exhale as the knee lifts, whichever one is fine, just make sure that you're breathing. And then last one, knee bends up and out. Swing that left leg just out to the side as if you're standing up, and you're gonna do your best. You're gonna try to take your right hand, just kind of play around with your balance here. Make sure your right knee is a little bit softly bent so you're not locked out. And you're gonna see if you can start to take your right hand away from the wall and stand on your right leg alone. So notice if you have the tendency to rock forward into your toes or back into your heel. Challenge how long you can stay without having to bring your left toes down to the floor or your hand back to the wall. And after a few moments, you should feel that right leg burning, at which point, step to the floor and switch sides. So now left hand to the wall, left foot up to the disc. When you feel like you've got it in a good position, press into it and step up. Right leg is flexed. Make sure your hips are nice and level, so the right hip is not lifting and it's not lowering down. Nice and in line. Belly drawn in, gaze straight forward, kicking that leg out and in. And last one. And then swinging that right leg slightly in front of you, bending the knee, pulling up into the body, and pressing out through the heel back to the floor. So getting flexion at the front of the hip, and then extension as the knee straightens out. Make sure in order to draw the knee in that you're not rounding and collapsing the low back. And in order to press out, it doesn't send your hips or pull them forward and arching the back. Keep everything neutral, everything steady. We'll do one more, in and out. Swing that right foot back around, and then try to bring your left hand off of the wall, finding that balance. Ooh. Do you have a harder side, Aria?
Yeah, I think the right side was hard.
I do too. I'm doing pretty good on the left. So keeping in mind that one side is always going to be a little bit harder. Usually your stronger side, especially for an exercise like this, is your stronger stabilizing hip and leg or glutes. And once you feel that burn, go ahead and step off. And we did it. So there's your wobble disc workout. Like I said, you can keep it really short. I think this was maybe a half-hour workout, so 30 minutes. Did you feel the burn?
Yes.
I felt the burn. Abs, obliques, glutes, hamstrings, we kind of did it all. Or like I said, you can vamp it up, make it an hour if you want to double the repetitions to 8 to 10. So like I said, grab one of these discs. I believe we have them in multiple colors. Blue and pink, so get yours, take it home, and enjoy this workout. We'll see you next time.